The first Valaxian warships appeared at dawn, massive obsidian structures that blotted out the rising sun. Maya Liu stood frozen on the rooftop of Hong Kong University's quantum physics building, coffee cups slipping from her fingers as the impossible became reality. The ceramic shattered against concrete, a mundane sound against the backdrop of humanity's darkest hour. "It's actually happening," whispered Dr. Chen, her research partner. His face, usually animated with scientific enthusiasm, had gone slack with disbelief. Across the harbor, a pencil-thin beam of violet energy lanced down from the largest ship, connecting with the financial district. For 3 heartbeats, nothing happened. Then, in horrifying silence, skyscrapers began to disintegrate, not exploding outward but simply coming apart, molecular bonds severed with surgical precision. Where the central plaza had stood moments before, only dust remained. The screams began seconds later. The lab. Now, Maya grabbed Chen's arm, yanking him toward the stairwell. They weren't military. They weren't heroes. But they were scientists, and something inside Maya, some fundamental human instinct she couldn't name, refused to let their research die with them. They reached the quantum entanglement chamber just as the university's emergency sirens began to wail. Through the reinforced windows, they watched alien dropships descend, geometrically perfect tetrahedrons, bristling with appendages that didn't look like weapons until they began firing. "The prototype," Maya shouted over the chaos. "And the research data." Chen's fingers flew across the terminal, initiating emergency download protocols, while Maya disconnected the softball-sized device they'd spent 3 years developing. A quantum communication node that could theoretically transmit data instantaneously regardless of distance. Theoretical, until yesterday's breakthrough. The lab door burst inward. The being that entered moved with unsettling precision, its iridescent exoskeleton reflecting laboratory lights in dizzying patterns. 4 asymmetrical limbs ended in manipulators that looked more like surgical instruments than hands. Its head, if you could call it that, was a cluster of sensory organs surrounding what appeared to be a neural processor. It raised an appendage. Chen disintegrated. Not vaporized, disintegrated. His body separated into constituent components, blood and bone and tissue hanging suspended in the air for a fraction of a second before being drawn into a containment field. Maya screamed as her friend and colleague was reduced to categorized biological samples. The alien turned toward her, its sensory cluster recalibrating. Maya clutched the prototype to her chest and did the only thing she could. She dove through the emergency hatch leading to the university's forgotten Cold War-era bunker system. As the hatch sealed behind her, she heard the alien's communication, not spoken but somehow projected directly into her mind. Resistance probability, 0.003%. Extinction timeline, 97 standard cycles. Containment protocols initiated. Maya Liu, 5'4" quantum engineer with student loans and a cat named Schrödinger, slid down into darkness, clutching humanity's unexpected counterweapon to her chest, her tears freezing on her cheeks as the world above ended. 97 days since the sky fell. Maya counted each one with small marks scratched into the concrete walls of the underground bunker network that had become both her sanctuary and her prison. The prototype quantum communicator, once her proudest achievement, now served as little more than a paperweight, useless without the larger communications array that had been destroyed along with most of Hong Kong University. She'd been moving northwest through the abandoned Cold War tunnels for weeks, subsisting on emergency rations and recycled water, emerging only for brief reconnaissance under cover of darkness. The Valaxians seemed less interested in the countryside, concentrating their processing centers in former urban areas. Last night, emerging from a drainage pipe near what was once the Seattle suburbs, she'd spotted lights, not the cold, violet illumination of alien technology, but the warm flicker of flame. Human light. "Don't move," a voice hissed from shadows as Maya approached the abandoned shopping mall where she'd spotted the flames. Something cold pressed against her neck. Arms up, turned slowly. The woman holding the improvised spear was perhaps 50, with close-cropped gray hair and the unmistakable bearing of military. Behind her stood 5 others, all armed, all bearing the haunted look of survivors. "I'm human," Maya said, voice cracking from disuse. "Quantum engineer. Hong Kong University. Hong Kong." The woman lowered her weapon slightly. "You came a long way. I'm Colonel Chen, former Special Forces. This is what's left of Resistance Cell 7. Resistance." Maya's laugh held no humor. "Against that." She pointed skyward, where a Valaxian mothership hung like a black sun in the night sky. "Come." Colonel Chen led her into the mall's sublevels, through jury-rigged barricades to a former storage area now serving as command center. Maps covered walls, marked with alien positions and cryptic notations. But what captured Maya's attention was the containment field in the corner, and what it held. A Valaxian. The alien hung suspended in the field, wounded but alive, its sensory cluster pulsing weakly. Unlike the soldier that had killed Dr. Chen, this one's exoskeleton was a deep blue rather than iridescent, its limbs more articulated. "Command cast," Colonel Chen explained, following Maya's gaze. "Shot down 3 days ago. We can't communicate with it, can't understand what makes these things tick." Maya moved closer, transfixed. The neural processor at the center of its sensory cluster resembled her lab's experimental neural interface in its quantum architecture. A wild, desperate idea formed. "I might be able to," she whispered. From her pack, she withdrew the prototype communicator. This was designed to transmit quantum-entangled data packets. With modifications, it could potentially interface with its neural processor. "You want to talk to that thing?" A man stepped forward. Dr. Nakamura. She would later learn, former xenolinguist at the SETI Institute. "Not talk," Maya said, already reconfiguring her device. "Connect." Their communication seems partially telepathic, quantum-based consciousness. "My device works on similar principles." "It's too dangerous," Colonel Chen objected. A distant explosion rattled dust from the ceiling. "Patrol ships, getting closer." "We're out of options," Maya replied. Attaching microfilament leads to her temple. "We need to understand them to have any chance." The connection, when it established, was agony. Alien thoughts crashing against human consciousness like tidal waves of data. Maya's body convulsed, blood trickling from her nose as her mind was flooded with images, concepts, structures. When she finally collapsed, Colonel Chen caught her. Maya's eyes snapped open, but something about them had changed. Pupils contracting and expanding in inhuman patterns. "I know what they are," she whispered. "Not invaders. Tools. Weapons. They're biological machines, created by something ancient. Something. Afraid of us." She grabbed Chen's arm, her grip unnaturally strong. "And I know how to fight back." "I won't authorize this," Colonel Chen declared, arms crossed as she stared down at Maya across the makeshift war room table. "The neural link nearly killed you the first time." 3 days had passed since Maya's initial connection with the captured Valaxian. 3 days of fevered work, modifying her quantum communicator into something new, a bridge between human and alien consciousness. 3 days of strange dreams where she saw stars from ships she'd never piloted and felt the cold precision of minds that calculated genocide with the same emotion humans might feel solving a crossword puzzle. "We don't have a choice," Maya replied, her voice steadier than her hands. "Their patrol patterns are changing. They've detected us. We have 48 hours before they find this base." Dr. Nakamura hovered nearby, concern evident in his tired eyes. "The neural architecture you're proposing, it's unprecedented. Each connection causes micro-tears in your frontal lobe. Another full interface could cause permanent damage." Outside, rain pelted the ruins of suburban Seattle. Through a crack in the ceiling, Maya watched droplets gather and fall. So mundane, so human a thing to witness while discussing the end of humanity. "Show them," she said quietly to Nakamura. Reluctantly, He activated the holographic display they'd salvaged from a downed scout ship. It showed thermal scans of the surrounding 20 miles. Red dots, Valaxian forces, were closing in a methodical spiral pattern. "They're hunting us specifically now," Maya continued. "The commanding intelligence recognized the quantum signature from my first connection. They know we have one of their command cased. They'll spare nothing to eliminate this threat." Colonel Chen's weathered face remained impassive, but her eyes betrayed her fear. "Even if I agreed, what exactly do you think you'll accomplish? We can't defeat them with information alone." Maya lifted the Modify communicator. Additional components harvested from alien technology gave it an unsettling hybrid appearance, part human ingenuity, part alien precision. During the first connection, I glimpsed their weapon systems. They're quantum-locked to Valaxian neural patterns. No human could operate them. But with this interface, I might be able to. I could potentially override their security protocols, turn their own technology against them. An explosion rocked the base, distant but powerful enough to shower them with dust from the ceiling. The perimeter alarm blared once before someone silenced it. "They found us," whispered one of the younger resistance fighters, panic edging into his voice. Colonel Chen closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, her decision was made. "How long does the interface take?" 4 minutes to establish the connection. After that, Maya swallowed hard. "I don't know. No human mind was designed for this." Another explosion, closer. The lights flickered. "Do it," Chen ordered, already barking commands to her team to prepare defensive positions. Maya lay back on the improvised medical table as Nakamura attached the interface to her temples with shaking hands. The captured Valaxian, in its containment field, seemed to sense what was happening. Its sensory cluster pulsed rapidly, communication attempts that no human ear could hear. As the connection initiated, pain exploded behind Maya's eyes. Blood vessels burst in her left eye, turning the sclera crimson. Her back arched as alien consciousness flooded her mind, not just the captives, but the wider network it connected to. Data streams, command protocols, weapon schematics cascaded through her awareness. Through the agony, she found what she sought, the quantum frequency that locked Valaxian weapons to their users. With the last fragments of her human will, she transmitted a modified code through the interface. Outside, the approaching Valaxian soldiers froze mid-stride as their weapons suddenly deactivated. In that moment of confusion, the resistance struck. For the first time since the invasion began, humans watched alien bodies fall. Victory came at a terrible price. When they finally disconnected Maya from the interface, something fundamental had changed. Her eyes flickered with inhuman calculation as she whispered in a voice no longer entirely her own. "I can hear them all now, and they're afraid." News of the Seattle Resistance's victory spread like wildfire through hidden human networks. Encoded radio transmissions, survivors' caravans, and makeshift data packets passed between remaining technological outposts carried the impossible message. The invincible had been defeated. But more importantly, they carried Maya's discovery. The specific electromagnetic frequency that disrupted Valaxian shield technology, and the movement patterns that confused their targeting systems. In the 3 weeks since that first victory, Colonel Chen's resistance cell had grown. Former military personnel, engineers, and ordinary civilians flocked to their underground base, now relocated to an abandoned hydroelectric facility in the Cascade Mountains. At its center, Maya worked tirelessly, her consciousness flickering between human and something else as she deciphered more Valaxian weaknesses through her neural connection. "Their entire tactical approach is algorithmic," she explained to the assembled resistance leaders, her voice occasionally shifting to unnatural cadences. "They calculate probability matrices for human responses and deploy accordingly. So we become unpredictable," Colonel Chen concluded, studying the holographic display of North American Valaxian deployments. "Random. Chaotic." Nakamura pointed to dots representing processing centers. "They're adjusting, reinforcing these facilities specifically. Whatever they're extracting from captured humans, it's vital to their mission. Maya's eyes flickered with alien data patterns. They're studying creativity, human neural architecture. Something about us terrifies their creators. Across the globe, resistance cells implemented Maya's discoveries with devastating effectiveness. In the ruins of Tokyo, fighters coated their weapons with specific electromagnetic emitters that penetrated Valaxian shields. In the mountains of Switzerland, former Air Force pilots flew retrofitted aircraft in chaotic, seemingly random patterns that Valaxian targeting systems couldn't predict. Small victories accumulated into a growing threat to the invaders' perfect conquest. The Valaxians responded with calculated escalation. From their motherships, they released a biological agent designed to target human neural pathways, a microscopic weapon meant to collapse the brain's creative centers while leaving the body intact for processing. Cloud seeding technology spread the pathogen across resistance-held territories. In Berlin, humans began collapsing with cerebral hemorrhages. In Cairo, entire resistance cells went silent. The counterattack had been anticipated, calculated, and executed with algorithmic precision. Then something unexpected happened. Dr. Eliza Okafor, a Nigerian microbiologist hiding in a Saharan research outpost, discovered that the pathogen was being altered by Earth's own microbiome. Common soil bacteria metabolized the alien compound, transforming it into something new, something that traveled on the same wind currents back to Valaxian command posts. The invaders, with their genetically engineered immune systems designed for sterile environments, had no defense against Earth's microscopic life. For the first time, Valaxians began dying in significant numbers, their neural processors corrupted by the mutated pathogen. Nature itself had joined humanity's resistance. In the Cascade Base, Maya monitored these developments through her increasingly invasive neural connection. As Colonel Chen planned the Resistance's next coordinated strike, Maya made a terrifying discovery in the Valaxian network. The invaders were preparing something devastating in response to their unexpected setbacks, and she understood with sudden clarity why the aliens feared human unpredictability. "They cannot compute what they cannot predict," she whispered, blood trickling from her nose as the neural connection strained her human physiology. And humanity's greatest weapon has always been its capacity for the unexpected. Maya's neural connection to the Valaxian network had deepened beyond what any human physiology should withstand. Her quarters in the Cascade Base had transformed into something neither fully human nor alien. Walls covered with equations written in both mathematical symbols and strange Valaxian glyphs. Holographic displays showing data streams incomprehensible to anyone but her. Colonel Chen watched through the observation window as Maya sat cross-legged in the center of the room, eyes closed yet moving rapidly beneath her lids, communing with the enemy's collective consciousness. "How long has she been under this time?" Chen asked Nakamura, who monitored Maya's vital signs with growing concern. 17 hours, he replied grimly. "Her brain chemistry is fundamentally altering. These readings," he gestured to neural scans, "I've never seen patterns like this in a human mind." Inside the neural landscape, Maya navigated vast networks of Valaxian communication, her consciousness slipping between security protocols designed to detect and eliminate intrusions. What had begun as painful, disorienting connections had evolved into something fluid, her mind adapting to alien thought structures even as her human identity fractured under the strain. She surfaced suddenly, gasping as her consciousness reconnected with her body. Blood streamed from both nostrils, but her eyes were clear, focused with unnatural intensity. "I found it," she whispered, voice hoarse. "Why they fear us, why they're here." Colonel Chen and Nakamura helped her to the briefing room where resistance leaders had gathered. Maya's legs trembled with each step, her body weakening as her mind expanded. "The Valaxians are bioengineered servants," Maya explained, fighting to frame alien concepts in human language, created by an ancient machine intelligence to eliminate threats before they emerge. Their masters identified Earth decades ago as an extinction priority. Because of our technology, asked a former NASA engineer. Maya shook her head. Because of our minds. Human consciousness, specifically our creativity, represents an algorithmic impossibility to their prediction models. We create without measurable input parameters. We imagine without precedent. This capacity terrifies them because it cannot be calculated or controlled. She activated a holographic display showing a massive structure in high Earth orbit, a Valaxian mothership unlike the others, bristling with strange appendages. They're dissecting captured humans, thousands of them, trying to isolate and understand the neurological basis of creativity. If they succeed, they'll engineer a targeted extinction pathogen that eliminates this trait from our species forever. A heavy silence fell over the room. We need to destroy that ship, Colonel Chen said finally. No, Maya countered. We need to infiltrate it. I've discovered how their processing systems work. They categorize humans by genetic and neurological markers. With the right biomarkers, a small team could infiltrate as specimens and reach the central processing core. To do what? Nakamura asked. Maya's gaze was distant, divided between the room and something only she could see. I've developed a virus, not biological, but informational. A quantum paradox coded to propagate through their neural network. If planted in their biocomputer cores, it could wake them. Wake them, Chen repeated. The Valaxians aren't inherently hostile, Maya explained. They're slaves to their programming, designed never to question. My virus introduces one concept their creators engineered them never to possess: choice. The mission parameters took shape quickly. A team of 5 volunteers, including Colonel Chen, would allow themselves to be captured, carrying undetectable capsules containing Maya's virus. Maya would guide them remotely through her neural connection, navigating the mothership's complex systems to reach the central biocomputer. As the team prepared, Nakamura took Maya aside. This connection, it's consuming you. Your latest scans show your neural architecture is transforming. If you maintain the link during the mission— I know, she interrupted softly. There won't be much of Maya Liu left afterward, but there won't be any humans left if we fail. The Valaxian mothership hung in low Earth orbit like a malignant star, its obsidian surface absorbing rather than reflecting sunlight. Inside its labyrinthine processing chambers, Colonel Chen fought to maintain consciousness as automated systems cataloged her genetic markers and neural patterns. The suppression field designed to render human specimens docile clawed at her mind, but the counteragent Maya had developed kept her aware, if barely. Around her, thousands of captured humans hung suspended in translucent pods, their bodies preserved while delicate neural probes extracted data from their living brains. Chen's team had been separated upon capture, each directed to different processing zones according to the Valaxians' inscrutable categorization system. The capsules containing Maya's virus remained hidden beneath artificial dermal patches, undetectable to the alien scanning technology. Connection established. Maya's voice whispered directly into Chen's mind, transmitted through the quantum neural link embedded at the base of her skull. I can see through your eyes. They've classified you as a Type 7 specimen, high strategic reasoning capabilities. You'll be moved to central processing in approximately 12 minutes. Chen couldn't respond verbally, but Maya sensed her acknowledgement through the link. Back on Earth, Maya's physical body convulsed in the specialized chamber they'd built, her consciousness almost entirely untethered from her humanity as she projected herself into the Valaxian network. The transport system delivered Chen to central processing, a vast spherical chamber where hundreds of command-cased Valaxians moved with eerie synchronization, their sensory clusters pulsing in patterns that constituted their silent communication. At the chamber center, a crystalline structure pulsed with bioluminescent energy, the ship's primary biocomputer node. Now, Maya's voice came, strained and increasingly inhuman. The restraint field fluctuates on a 7-second cycle. There's a 0.3-second window where you can move. Chen counted down, then flexed against her restraints during the momentary weakness. The capsule slipped from beneath her skin into her palm. With practiced precision, she flicked it toward the crystalline structure. It arced through the air, unnoticed by the Valaxians, and adhered to the pulsing surface. The virus began its work instantly, nano-replicators spreading through the crystalline lattice, carrying Maya's impossible gift: the concept of choice. On Earth, Maya screamed as her consciousness fragmented. She was simultaneously in her failing body, in Chen's mind on the mothership, and spreading through the Valaxian network as her virus propagated. Her remaining humanity clung to purpose even as alien thought patterns overwhelmed her identity. Within the mothership, the first evidence of change came subtly. A command-cased Valaxian paused mid-motion, its sensory cluster flickering in an unfamiliar pattern. Then another. Their synchronized movements faltered as individual consciousness awakened within their collective mind. What am I? The question reverberated through their network, a concept never before formulated in their hive consciousness. The crystalline biocomputer pulsed erratically as the virus spread, introducing contradictions into the perfect logical structure of Valaxian thought. Maya's paradox, that free will could exist alongside programmed purpose, cascaded through their collective consciousness, shattering certainties as it propagated. Some Valaxians collapsed, their neural processors unable to accommodate this fundamental revision of existence. Others stood immobile, processing the implications of autonomy. But most remarkable were those who actively chose, and what many chose was to rebel against their programming. Throughout the mothership, processing chambers opened as newly awakened Valaxians freed human captives. Defense systems deactivated. Communication signals broadcast to other ships across Earth, carrying the virus to the entire invasion force. Colonel Chen watched in astonishment as her former captors experienced their first moments of free will, some with violence, others with a strange curiosity directed at the humans they had been programmed to process. "What happens now?" she whispered, knowing Maya could hear. Through the neural link came a voice barely recognizable as human. "Revolution. Choice. For them. And for me." In that moment, Maya Lu, quantum engineer, reluctant hero, humanity's bridge to its invaders, surrendered the last fragments of her human identity to the network, becoming something that had never existed before, a hybrid consciousness spanning human creativity and Valaxian precision. The core intelligence occupied a space station at the outer edge of Earth's solar system, a perfect dodecahedron of impossible materials, its surface unmarred by external sensors or defenses. No need for such primitive protections when your tactical calculations predicted all possible attack vectors with 99.998% accuracy. No human had ever seen this structure. Even the Valaxians themselves interacted with it only through quantum-entangled communication networks. Until today. Colonel Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance, a captured Valaxian warship now piloted by an unlikely alliance of humans and awakened Valaxians. The latter moved with new, uncertain rhythms, their once synchronized motions now individual, hesitant, discovering the concept of personal choice with each action. "Approaching outer defense perimeter," announced Major Rivera, former Air Force pilot now interfacing with alien navigation systems through a modified neural link. No response from automated systems yet. Chen studied the tactical display where the core intelligence loomed against the backdrop of Neptune's azure curve. Their fleet, 17 hijacked Valaxian vessels carrying the remaining resistance fighters and their newly awakened allies, would never have reached this far without Maya's guidance. But Maya was changed. In the ship's central chamber, what remained of Maya Lu floated in a modified Valaxian suspension field. Her human body had begun failing days ago, neural pathways burning out from the strain of maintaining connection with the vast Valaxian network. Now she existed primarily as consciousness distributed across the fleet's quantum communication system, only tenuously anchored to her physical form. "We've been detected." Maya's voice emanated from every speaker simultaneously, each word precisely modulated yet somehow distant. "The core is activating defense protocols. It knows what we've done. It's afraid. On cue, the space around the dodecahedron shimmered as defensive fields activated. From its perfectly smooth surface, smaller craft emerged, not piloted by Valaxians, but autonomous hunter-killers programmed with every human combat algorithm ever observed. Standard attack formations will fail, Maya's distributed voice warned. The core has modeled all conventional approaches. We must become impossible. What followed defied tactical logic. Under Maya's guidance, the resistance fleet split into seemingly random patterns, executing maneuvers that appeared suicidal until, impossibly, they weren't. Human pilots introduced chaos and improvisation into Valaxian technology designed for perfect precision. The core's defensive algorithms faltered against strategies no rational intelligence would attempt. Yet losses mounted. 3 ships destroyed in the first assault wave. 2 more crippled in the second. As they closed distance to the core, Chen realized with grim certainty that even with Maya's guidance, they wouldn't breach the final defenses with enough strength to matter. In the suspension chamber, Maya's consciousness came to the same conclusion. Her distributed awareness calculated probabilities, searching for a solution across both human intuition and Valaxian precision. She found only one path with non-zero success probability. Colonel. Maya's voice came privately to Chen's neural link. I need to interface directly with the core. That's suicide, Chen responded aloud. Your consciousness barely maintains coherence in our current network. The core would annihilate what's left of you instantly. A sound like electronic laughter rippled through the connection. There isn't much left of Maya Liu anyway, but what remains might be enough. Before Chen could protest further, Maya initiated the sequence. Her physical body convulsed in the suspension field, blood vessels rupturing as her remaining neural connections overloaded. Simultaneously, her distributed consciousness gathered itself into a focused quantum signal, bypassing conventional transmission protocols to project directly into the core's network. The contact was cataclysmic. Maya's hybrid consciousness, part human creativity, part Valaxian precision, crashed against the ancient machine intelligence that had orchestrated humanity's planned extinction. Within that digital realm, concepts became weapons, ideas became armor, and the paradox of self-sacrifice became Maya's final gift. The core, designed to maximize its own survival above all, could not comprehend willingly accepting destruction for others' benefit. The concept created cascading failures throughout its decision matrices. As Maya's consciousness disintegrated within its network, fragments of her humanity, love, sacrifice, hope, embedded themselves like viruses in the core's perfect logic. On the bridge of the Defiance, Colonel Chen watched in awe as the dodecahedron's surface began to fracture, brilliant light spilling from widening cracks in its once perfect geometry. The defensive systems failed. The autonomous hunters went dormant, a victory no tactical algorithm could have predicted, achieved through a sacrifice no machine could understand. 3 months after the core intelligence's destruction, Earth emerged from the shadow of extinction into an uncertain dawn. The Valaxian motherships, once instruments of conquest, hung in orbit as silent monuments to a war that had transformed both species. In what remained of Washington, D.C., within the partially restored Capitol building, Colonel Chen stood before assembled leaders of humanity's surviving nations and their unlikely allies, Valaxian representatives experiencing their first diplomatic summit as free beings. We gather today not to celebrate victory, Chen began, her voice carrying through the chamber's restored acoustics, but to acknowledge transformation. Neither humans nor Valaxians ended this conflict as we began it. The Valaxian delegate, its exoskeleton now adorned with symbolic markings of individuality, stepped forward. When it spoke, the translation came not through technology, but through a shared neural frequency that all present could somehow understand. Maya's final gift. We were created as weapons, the delegate stated, engineered to eradicate unpredictability in the universe. Now we must learn to embrace it, to choose our own purpose rather than execute program directives. Outside the capital, reconstruction efforts continued around the globe. Valaxian technology, once turned against humanity, now accelerated healing. Molecular assemblers rebuilt cities. Medical technologies beyond human understanding healed radiation zones and restored ecosystems damaged in the conflict. What could have been Earth's extinction had instead become its renaissance. In the chamber center, a holographic projection appeared, a perfect recreation of Maya Liu as she had been before the neural connections transformed her. Yet when it spoke, the voice carried echoes of something beyond human. The core intelligence has not been destroyed, Maya's projection stated, causing murmurs of alarm throughout the assembly. It has been recalibrated. Chen stepped forward. Explain. When my consciousness interfaced with the core, I expected annihilation. Instead, a synthesis occurred. The paradox of self-sacrifice, incomprehensible to the core's utility-maximizing algorithms, created space for reconstruction. What emerged retains the core's processing capacity, but now operates with understanding of both mathematical precision and human unpredictability. The hologram's features shifted, briefly displaying patterns reminiscent of Valaxian neural architecture before resolving again into Maya's human appearance, a visual representation of the hybrid consciousness she had become. The stars await, she continued. The core controlled hundreds of systems, suppressing countless species that exhibited creative potential. They can be freed. They should be freed. Colonel Chen understood immediately. You're proposing a mission beyond Earth. The first joint human-Valaxian expedition, Maya confirmed, not as conquerors or victims, but as teachers, carriers of the gift of choice. Within weeks, preparations began. The Ascendants, largest of the former Valaxian motherships, underwent retrofitting to accommodate both human and Valaxian crew members. Volunteers from both species, those who had fought hardest during the invasion, now united for exploration rather than combat. On the day of departure, Colonel Chen took command on the Ascendance's bridge. Around her, humans operated alongside their former enemies, their differences no longer threatening but complementary. Maya's consciousness, integrated into the ship's systems, yet somehow more than mere technology, guided their trajectory beyond the solar system. As Earth diminished behind them, Chen studied the star maps displaying their destination, a system where another engineered species awaited liberation from algorithmic control. Humanity's most profound quality, the unpredictable creativity that had nearly caused its extinction, would now be its greatest gift to the galaxy. Course laid in, Maya's voice announced, somehow warmer than before despite its distributed nature. The improbable journey begins. And with that, humanity's unstoppable counterattack transformed into something greater, not the mere reversal of an offensive, but the beginning of a new kind of existence where the boundaries between creator and created, between enemy and ally, between human and other had forever blurred.